I pressed myself against the wall at the top of the stairs, trying to make myself as small as possible while my mom and Vince argued below. Their voices carried up clearly through the empty house, each word hitting like a physical blow. My name is Elara, and this was the night I learned I was being sent away. She's 15, Vince. I can't just ship her off like some package, my mom said, her voice wavering in that way it always did when she was about to give in to whatever he wanted. Corinne, think about what's best for everyone here. For us. For the baby. Vince's voice had that fake reasonable tone he used when he was manipulating her. Your sister has the space, and Elara needs more structure than we can give her right now. I dug my fingernails into my palms, fighting the urge to run down there and scream at them both. 6 months ago, it had been just Mom and me. Then Vince moved in with his perfect smile and his perfect job, and suddenly I was the stranger in my own home. But what will people think? Mom's voice had gotten smaller. They'll think we're doing what's best for a troubled teenager. The sound of his footsteps pacing the kitchen. Face it, Corinne. She's been acting out ever since we got married. The attitude, the grades slipping, she needs more supervision than you can provide while pregnant. I hadn't been acting out. I'd been drowning. Maybe you're right. Mom's defeat was a knife in my chest. I'll call Maureen tomorrow. I didn't stay to hear more. I crept back to my room, closed the door silently, and stared at the walls I'd painted myself last summer. Mom had helped me pick out the colors. We'd laughed together, gotten paint everywhere. Now she was sending me away like I was nothing more than an inconvenient reminder of her old life. Fine. If they wanted me gone so badly, I'd make sure they regretted it. Every last one of them. Aunt Maureen's house smelled like artificial lavender and disappointment. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching as I dragged my suitcase across her pristine hardwood floors. The wheels left faint marks that made her lips twitch. Your room is upstairs, first door on the right, she said, her voice as crisp as her ironed blouse. I've posted the house rules on the door. I expect them to be followed. Mom hadn't even bothered to come inside. I'd watched her car disappear down the street, one hand resting protectively on her barely showing pregnancy bump. The baby that was apparently worth more than 15 years of memories. I know you think this is unfair, Aunt Maureen said, following me up the stairs. But your mother needs time to focus on her new family. Sometimes we have to accept things we don't like. The room was beige. Everything was beige. The walls, the bedspread, the curtains, like someone had tried to erase all signs of personality. Dinner is at 6 sharp, Aunt Maureen continued. We don't use phones at the table, or in bedrooms after 9, or during study hours, which are posted on the door. Got it. I started unpacking, keeping my back to her. That attitude won't work here, Elara. Her voice hardened. Your mother told me about your recent behavior. The dropping grades, the attitude, the silent treatment. I won't tolerate it. I turned, meeting her eyes. Did she tell you why? Did she mention how Vince? I don't want to hear it. Your mother's choices are her own, and you need to respect them. She checked her watch. Dinner in 30 minutes. Wash up and come help set the table. After she left, I pulled out my phone. 3 messages from friends, none from Mom. I opened my photo gallery, scrolling to last summer's pictures. Mom and me at the beach, both sunburned and laughing. Before Vince. Before everything changed. I deleted them all. The rules sheet on my door rustled in the air conditioning, a constant reminder of my new prison. But Aunt Maureen had no idea what was coming. Neither did Mom, or Vince, or anyone else. They thought they could just file me away and forget about me. They were wrong. I found the letter while cleaning Aunt Maureen's study, a chore she'd assigned as punishment for being 2 minutes late to dinner. It was tucked inside a manila envelope, my mother's flowing handwriting instantly recognizable. My hands shook as I read it, each word hitting harder than the last. The monthly payment should cover Elara's expenses. Vince thinks $600 is more than generous, considering the circumstances. Once the baby comes, we'll need to reassess. They were paying Aunt Maureen to take me, like I was some unwanted pet being kenneled. The letter continued. She's becoming more difficult to handle, especially with my condition. The attitude, the constant questioning of Vince's authority. I just can't deal with it right now. Maybe some time away will make her more appreciative. The study door creaked. I shoved the letter in my pocket just as Aunt Maureen entered. "What are you doing?" Her eyes narrowed, scanning the room. "Just dusting, like you asked." I held up the feather duster, forcing my voice to stay steady. "That shelf still needs attention." She pointed to a row of pristine books. "And remember, dinner is at 6 sharp." I know. The letter burned against my leg like a brand. After she left, I pulled out my phone and took pictures of every page. Evidence. Proof of what they really thought of me. That night at dinner, Aunt Maureen droned on about responsibility and gratitude while I pushed food around my plate, the words from the letter echoing in my head. $600. That's what my mother thought I was worth. Are you listening, Elara? Aunt Maureen's fork clinked against her plate. "Just thinking about how generous you are," I said, meeting her eyes, "taking in your troubled niece out of the goodness of your heart." Something in my tone made her pause. For a moment, fear flickered across her face. Good. Let her worry. Let them all worry. Because now I knew the truth, and I wasn't going to just disappear quietly like they wanted. I was going to make them remember exactly who they tried to throw away. I waited until midnight to make the call, long after Aunt Maureen's lights went out. My fingers trembled as I dialed Mom's number, the one I'd sworn I wouldn't use. 3 rings, then 4. Just when I thought it would go to voicemail, she answered. "Elara?" Her voice was thick with sleep. "It's the middle of the night. I found the letter." The words came out sharper than I intended. The one about my monthly allowance. $600, Mom? That's what it took to get rid of me. Silence stretched between us. I heard rustling, then a door closing, probably her leaving the bedroom, so she wouldn't wake Vince. You weren't supposed to see that. No denial. No explanation. Just irritation at being caught. And you shouldn't be going through Maureen's private things. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? Her whisper turned harsh. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Just try to make this work. Please. Make what work? Being bought off? Being erased? Don't be dramatic. A pause, then muffled voices in the background. I have to go. The baby's been keeping me up and I need rest. We can talk about this another time. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat on my bed, staring at the phone until the screen went dark. Through the wall, I could hear Aunt Maureen's television playing some late-night show. The sound of canned laughter felt like it was mocking me. My hands moved on autopilot, opening social media. Mom's profile showed a new post from earlier that day, her and Vince at some fancy restaurant, celebrating their last quiet dinner before baby. The caption read, "So blessed with my perfect little family." Perfect little family. Like I never existed. I screenshot it, adding it to the growing folder on my phone labeled evidence. The letter photos were there too, along with other bits and pieces I'd collected. Each one a bullet point in the story of how my mother chose her new life over me. They thought sending me away would silence me. Instead, they'd given me exactly what I needed to destroy them. Aunt Maureen's phone call to grandmother Iris wasn't meant for my ears, but the walls in her house were thin, and desperation had taught me to listen carefully. "She's becoming impossible," Aunt Maureen hissed. Yesterday, she skipped dinner entirely. And this morning, I found her going through my desk again. I pressed my ear closer to the wall, heart pounding. "No, Iris, this isn't about discipline. There's something calculating about her now. The way she watches me, like she's planning something." A pause. I could practically hear Grandmother Iris's calm voice on the other end, though I couldn't make out the words. Of course I've tried talking to her, but ever since that night, she called Corinne. Another pause. "Fine. Yes. I suppose you're right. Maybe she needs a different approach. When can you take her?" My breath caught. They were moving me again, like a problem piece on a chessboard. But Grandmother Iris was different. I remembered her from childhood visits, her warm kitchen and gentle hands. Before Mom met Vince and stopped taking me to see her, I pulled out my phone, opening the folder of evidence. The letter about the payments. Screenshots of Mom's perfect family posts. A recording of Aunt Maureen talking about me like a burden to her friends. My finger hovered over the delete button. Maybe revenge wasn't the answer. Maybe Grandmother Iris's house would be different. A real home, not just another place to be stored away. A text from Mom lit up my screen. Hope you're behaving for your aunt. The baby shower is next weekend. Thought you should know we're having a girl. My throat tightened. She hadn't invited me.
Of course she hadn't.
I closed the delete prompt, adding the text to my evidence folder instead. Let them think sending me to Grandmother Iris would solve their problem. Let them think I was giving up. I'd play their game for now. But eventually, they'd learn what happens when you throw someone away like garbage. They'd learn that sometimes garbage catches fire. The acceptance letter from Brighton Arts Academy sat on Grandmother Iris's kitchen table, its crisp edges mocking me. Full scholarship. A chance to escape. Everything I'd worked for these past 6 months while living with Iris. Then Mom walked in, and everything shattered. You can't seriously be considering sending her there, Mom said to Iris, not even looking at me. Her baby bump was huge now, though I'd only seen it in social media posts. The tuition alone. She has a full scholarship, Iris replied calmly, placing her hand on my shoulder. Elara earned this. That money could help your other grandchild have a better start in life. Mom's voice turned syrupy sweet. After all, Iris, you always said family comes first. I gripped the acceptance letter tighter. I'm family too. Of course you are, sweetie. Mom finally looked at me, her eyes calculating. But sometimes we have to think about what's best for everyone. Your sister will need. Half-sister, I corrected. And she has you and Vince. I have nothing. That's not true. You have. Mom trailed off, realizing perhaps how empty those words were. Look, Iris, we need to discuss the estate planning. With the baby coming. You want grandmother's money? The words burst out before I could stop them. That's why you're really here? Mom's face hardened. You don't understand adult matters, Elara. Sometimes difficult decisions. Like paying Aunt Maureen to take me? I pulled out my phone, showing her the letter I'd photographed. Or posting about your perfect little family while erasing me? The color drained from Mom's face. Where did you get that? Does it matter? I have everything. Every message. Every post. Every betrayal. My hands shook as I stood. You want grandmother's money?
Fine.
But Brighton is mine. You can't take this from me too. Elara, Mom's voice turned sharp. If you think you can blackmail. I think, Grandmother Iris interrupted quietly. It's time for you to leave, Corinne. Mom's expression turned ugly. This isn't over. As she stormed out, I realized she was right. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Grandmother Iris's lawyer placed the envelope on the table between us. Mom sat across from me, her hands protectively cradling her belly, while Vince loomed behind her chair. Before we discuss the estate, the lawyer began, there's something Iris wanted revealed in the event of her passing. My throat tightened. 2 weeks since the funeral, and the house still echoed with grandmother's absence. Just get to the point, Mom snapped. We all know why we're here. The lawyer slid a document toward me. This is your adoption record, Elara. The room went silent. I stared at the paper, my name in black and white. Adopted at 3 months old. That's impossible, Mom whispered. She's mine. I have the birth certificate. Forged, the lawyer said quietly. Iris kept the truth hidden to protect Elara, but she wanted her to know now. To be free to choose her own path. I looked up at Mom. No, Corinne. Her face had gone chalk white. You knew. I raised you, she said desperately. That makes you mine. The estate is entirely in Elara's name, the lawyer interrupted, along with a trust for her education. Iris was very clear about her wishes. Vince's hand tightened on Corinne's shoulder. This isn't over. We can contest. With what? I pulled out my phone, opening the evidence folder. The proof that you paid to get rid of me? The social media posts erasing me? Or maybe the texts about how inconvenient I was to your perfect new family? Elara, please. Corinne reached across the table. We can work something out. You're still my daughter.
No.
I stood up, my legs steady for the first time in months. I'm not, and I never really was. You ungrateful little. Vince started forward, but I cut him off.
Leave.
Both of you, or everything in this folder goes public. My voice didn't shake. Your choice. They left. Not dramatically, not with threats or tears. Just quietly, defeated by the truth they'd tried so hard to bury. I sat in Grandmother Iris's kitchen, my kitchen now, and finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, but relief. I was free. The Brighton Arts Academy dorm room was smaller than my bedroom at Grandmother Iris's house, but it felt like freedom. I hung the last of my artwork, sketches of gardens inspired by irises, then sat at my desk to open the envelope I'd been avoiding for days. Inside was a letter, written in Iris's familiar handwriting. My dearest Elara, by the time you read this, you'll know the truth about your adoption. But there's more you should understand. I watched Corinne raise you, hoping she'd grow into the mother you deserved. When she chose Vince over you, I knew I had to act. The money, the house, they're tools, not treasures. Use them to build the life you want, not the one others tried to force upon you. Your art, your compassion, your fierce heart, these are your true inheritance. I'm not asking you to forgive, but don't let revenge consume the beautiful future ahead of you. A notification lit up my phone. Corinne had posted about her new baby. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to screenshot it for my evidence folder. I deleted the folder instead. The next morning, I walked past the campus art gallery, stopping at the notice board. My acceptance piece, a portrait of a young girl dissolving into butterflies, would be featured in next month's showcase. That's yours? A voice behind me asked. I turned to see a girl with paint-stained fingers pointing at the announcement. It's incredible, the way she's breaking apart but also becoming something new. Yeah, I smiled, really smiled for the first time in months. Sometimes breaking apart is how we become who we're meant to be. That evening, I added one final sketch to my wall, a portrait of Grandmother Iris, surrounded by her beloved gardens. Below it, I pinned her letter. I'd thought revenge would heal me, but Iris had given me something better, the chance to rebuild myself from the fragments others had left behind. Let Corinne have her perfect family photos and carefully curated life. I had something real, a future of my own choosing, and the strength to embrace it. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.